Welcome to the biOptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. And now, here's your host, Wade T. Lightheart.
Want awesome health? How about doubling your energy? With our free Awesome Health course, you can get a new video and lesson every single day for 84 straight days. The course covers everything from optimizing your digestion, nutrient intake, correct health issues, including weight, skin, energy, immune system, and so much more. The course could easily be worth $200 or $300 for, and yet it's 100% free when you go to bioptimizer.com. That's bioptimizers.com. Once you're there, just enter your name and email to get the first 3 phases of the bioptimization report. You'll get the report immediately and begin getting your video lessons each and every day from there on in. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It's Wade T. Lightheart from the biOptimizers Awesome Health Podcast, and I'm here with my dear friend, David Hall. David is a living legend. He's been in the industry for over 25 years. He's worked with doctors, celebrities, health practitioners, men and women from all ages and all walks of life. He's been featured on just about every major newspaper and television show you can imagine. He's traveled all over the world. And most importantly, he can change your life physically in just 10 minutes a day. And I'm one of his biggest testimonials. In fact, I met David about 10 years ago. And first off, you've never seen a guy that looks this good. You've never seen a guy that speaks this well. He speaks at about 400 words per minute with gusts up to 1,000. And it's because he's so vital, he's so energized, he's so passionate, and he's helped so many people. He's an amazing man, an amazing mentor, and he's got an amazing device that we're going to talk about today and what he's been able to share and transform so many people around the world. And he's still doing it after 25 years. David, great to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Wade. I didn't know that 60s could be so much fun. They are.
It's hard to believe that you're in your 60s. I mean, you still look like a kid, frankly. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's a great thing.
Yes, part of my message is that the cells don't get old. They're always replacing themselves. We can strengthen and improve the efficiency of a cell at any age. We don't have to go through the symptoms of the aging process. We'll go through an aging process, but most of the symptoms are simply weaknesses in the body. We can avoid that to a large degree. That's part of what I teach.
Which, when you started this message, basically you kind of went through your own health challenges, but it's a kind of a radical state. How did you get to this? How did you get started in this industry? Because I know you had some challenges that you had to overcome.
Yeah, I did. And so that's what makes me very empathetic to other people that have issues and health challenges as well. In fact, that's my motivation, is to help people reach their greater health potential. We all have one. And as we promote health, the illnesses just kind of fade away. But we've taken a different approach to it in our society. We deal with the symptoms of illness instead of the causes of health. And when we start focusing more on the causes of health, we're not going to have to deal as much with the symptoms of illness. But until we can get that mindset changed in people, we're going to live more in a reactive mode instead of a proactive mode. But my story began, in the 1980s. I was an insurance agent with Mass Mutual, Newport Beach, California. We were on the top floor, beautiful view of the ocean on a clear day, which wasn't always, but on a clear day, you could actually see Catalina Island from our office. And it was just spectacular. It was beautiful. But like many insurance agents, I wasn't getting enough exercise. I had a little double chin at one point and a little stomach. And I tell people I was an average looking insurance agent. Nothing against insurance agents, but I fit the average. And I wanted to get back into shape. So I started walking up the stairs. Now we had like 18 flights of stairs. And so I'd walk up about 9 flights and say, okay, I'm a little tired. So I'd get out and take the elevator and cheat the rest of the way up. But on this one particular day, I was getting better at it, and I was going to go all the way to the top. And that's what I was doing. I was huffing and puffing and breathing really hard. And unbeknownst to me, they were doing asbestos removal on the various different floors at the building. I didn't know that, but as I passed, it was like the 14th or 15th floor, I noticed the door to the stairwell was open and all this plastic was hanging down in the room. Well, I didn't know what it was. I figured they were just painting. So I just kept huffing and puffing. I got all the way up to the top floor, got into my office, and my body started shaking uncontrollably. I thought, wow, I must have overdone it. And I sat down. My partner was already there. He'd taken the elevator, and he watched me as my body was just shaking uncontrollably. And I just watched it like, what's going on? Didn't think a lot of it, but went to sleep that night, woke up the next morning. The right side of my lymphatic system had collapsed. I didn't know what a lymphatic system was at the time, but it had all tightened up like a net. I could lift my arm up and it felt like it was going to rip the tissue underneath my skin. I didn't feel very well. My lymph nodes were swelling up, and I decided to take a nice hot shower and see if I could loosen things up. Well, it didn't work. The lymph nodes continued to get more swollen. My skin color began to change. I felt horrible. Went to the doctors. They did a physical. Of course, they didn't know what to look for, and I didn't know what I'd been exposed to at the time. And so there's nothing they could do. But I had 2 young children, a third on the way, and I honestly did not feel weight. I didn't feel like I'd be around much longer. So I did a lot of praying, a lot of soul searching. And in that praying and soul searching, I literally had a dream. And in that dream, I had a kind of a vision that I'm going to be talking about more in my book. But if you can visualize a stargate, because that's the best way I can explain it, is it's like a portal that just kind of opened up with a messenger. It had a message for me. It's really kind of an interesting story. But from that point on, I was led to a discovery with respect to the body itself being made up of cells, and the cells being imbued with an intelligence. The cells of our body knowing better than any doctor or health practitioner how to create, maintain, and heal the body. But far too often, we didn't know how to work with them. Well, in that process, I learned about the lymphatic system and the importance of opening up the lymph system so that the white blood cells could move freely through the body and doing their job more efficiently, which is to destroy the foreign invaders. And in this whole process of discovery, I started communicating with my cells and with my body, because I didn't realize at the time, but our cells understand English. What we say, think, and do, how we act, how we respond, our emotions, our body is constantly being reacted to, it's reacting on. And so I started literally communicating with my cells. It sounds silly, but it really, it's very, very, very powerful. And in the process of that discovery, I recognized that if you're fighting, rather than fight against something that is wrong, it's better to promote that which is right. And so part of my message to everyone else, which related to my personal discovery, is that if you're fighting against something, obesity, if you're fighting against pornography, if you're fighting against addictions of virtually any kind, if you're fighting against cancer, chances are you're empowering that which you're fighting against.
Right. That's a very profound message.
Well, it is, because you're dealing in fear and frustration and despair and depression and all these negative qualities that lower our level of energy and lowers the ability of the body to be responsive. So rather than, I explain it like this in my lectures. If you walk into a dark room and you're fighting against the darkness, when you're done fighting, it's still going to be dark. But the difference is the character of the person you have become in the process of fighting against it. You're dealing with the frustration and the anger and the despair and all these negative qualities. So I tell people, rather than walk into that dark room and fight against the darkness, realize that over here on the wall, there's a light switch. Now, for most of it, it's a dimmer switch. So you turn on the light switch and you begin to turn up the light. What happens to the darkness automatically?
Disappears.
It begins to disappear. And as you turn up the light, you begin to see obstacles in the room that you couldn't see before. Now you're empowered. Now you have the ability to see through the obstacles or around them or under them or over them to the objective. And the objective becomes a focus instead of the obstacles. And so to apply that, I'll apply it in my health, but with people who, for example, are dealing with weight loss, is, you're not fighting against it. Embrace who you are right now. Love who you are right now. Because the character of the person you are took many, many years to get to that point. And you've learned a great deal. Now, when you embrace who you are, that's positive. Now see the person you want to become and focus on that. Take a picture, write it out, do the affirmations, proclamations, the declarations. It's very, very important. But one of the statements, you've heard me say it before, I'm sure, Wade, is in order to have what we have not, we must first become what we are not. As we become what we are not, then what we have not becomes the natural manifestation of the person we've now become. But in order to become what we are not, we must first be able to see ourselves, each other, that which is around us, and that which is within us. Not just as we are today, but as we can become tomorrow. First step of faith. That's the way I hope God sees each one of us. And the moment we see ourselves, not just as we are, but as we can become in our family and home, our physical and health, our financial and career, our social and cultural, spiritual, ethical, mental, educational areas of our life. And we literally see that. We take the time to create the vision. Most people won't do that. They follow someone else's. But when you take, and this is what I teach, when we take the time to create the vision, we hold on to the vision, it grows into a desire. Now, as we nurture the desire, that's the exercise of faith. With prayer, meditation, proclamation, declaration, the desire becomes a passion. So you take the picture, you put it up on the wall, you look at it day after day, you tell yourself why you want to achieve that and why it's so important to you. The passion then compels us to action. The action creates end results. And I tell people it's not that anything around us has ever changed, but that which is within us has. So we begin responding differently to the conditions around us so that we can achieve that greater potential. Well, that's what I began to realize. So I began seeing myself not as I was, but as I could become. And it took about 2 years. For about a year and a half, I had these large lesions growing on my neck, on my shoulders, and on my neck, and on my face. The poisons were trying to come out of the body. The liver was shot. So this is back in 1989. So this is a long time ago, but still, I believed if I could live long enough, and that was my objective, I really believed that the body could heal itself. And after 7 years, I literally took myself out and celebrated, because every 7 years you have a whole new body in some parts many times over.
Right.
And so, in the process of figuring out what I needed to do to open up the lymphatic and circulatory systems, I discovered the typical mini trampoline, a rebounder. And when I entered the industry, I started doing the rebounding, because rebounding, the movement up and down, causes one-way valves in the lymphatic system to open and shut, and they increase circulation. The lymphatic system is literally a vacuum system within the body. Many people don't understand that. But when we're moving up and down, the lymphatic system holds a negative pressure. So movement causes suction. And as we're moving up and down, millions of one-way valves start sucking. And within just, a few minutes, you get this circuit of fluid movement slowly starting to move in between the tissue spaces of the body, but the bones and the joints, all the connective tissue. And so you start to literally create a vacuum system that starts to flush out the toxins, the poisons, metabolic waste, dead cells, immune cells, cancerous cells. They're all being pulled into the lymphatic system, where it gets to the lymph nodes, and that's where the majority of the lymphocytes are located. And they go after and they start to tear down the viruses, germs, bacteria, fungus, dead cells, mutant cells, cancerous cells, etc. And it starts to get rid of them. And I noticed that I needed to drink a lot more water, which is obviously part of the message as well. Cells live in water, and we want the purest water, the healthiest water, and you're an expert in this, that we can possibly give to the cells so they can do their job more efficiently. And so that became an element of the overall message as well. And over a period of time, the lesions started to disappear. My energy level soared. Actually, 3 months into it, 1 month, first month of creating a routine that I hoped, or I felt inspired to do, I dropped a belt notch in 1 month, and my arms were bigger. My wife was saying, "Are you lifting weights?" I said, No, I'm just playing on the Cellerciser before I go to work. And that was it. And after the first month, I took it more seriously. I'm like, wow, something's going on. This is really, really working. Well, 6 months later, I had a whole different physique. My double chin was gone. My stomach was flat. I was actually starting to see stomach muscles again show up. And my energy level soared. And my insurance clientele began saying, David, what are you doing? Well, now I'm enthusiastic because it's made a huge difference in my life. So I started to share it with them. And invited to speak before Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, Kiwanis clubs, senior citizen centers. I did that for about 3 years. Woke up one morning and said, why am I selling insurance? And I took it out on the road. And in the process of that, I created, when I entered the industry, the typical mini trampolines, virtually all of them, they use these little tube springs like this. And these little tube springs, they didn't represent NASA's research at all. NASA had done research because when the astronauts are in outer space for a couple of weeks, they can lose up to 15% of their bone mass or bone density and muscle mass. So they atrophy when they're up there for 2 to 3 months and come down. They're helped out with a stretcher because the whole body's weak. The body has to reacclimate to the weight of gravity. Well, all exercise is trying to increase the weight or stress. It's just that typical exercise is very limited. It treats the body as muscle groups or body parts, not collectively as a whole. Well, NASA didn't have time to put weight on all these body parts and muscle groups. What if they missed a part that was important, like the heart or something, or some other area? They had to create a weight-bearing exercise that was on the entire body, not just parts of it. And so they did the research on trampolines, which created a G-force, or a weight-bearing exercise that incorporated 3 forces, not just one: acceleration, deceleration, and gravity. To the body, it can't tell the difference. So there was three different forces working on the body instead of one. Well, that's being applied to everything, every muscle, bone, connective tissue, ligament, tendon, skin, collagen. So I tell people, how do you get a skin cell to do a push-up? You have to put it under weight. How do you do that? You use Cellercise. It's all weight bearing. And so but what ended up happening is that the rebound industry took the research and applied it to mini trampolines. The problem was these little tube springs would never create the acceleration deceleration effect. And NASA didn't use it because big trampolines were not safe. You land wrong, it'll throw you right off. So, but they did find a weight-bearing exercise. So I took the current industry and NASA's research and I said, well, why can't we create a mini trampoline that has the properties of acceleration and deceleration without an abrupt stop or jar at the end of the stretch, which is what these were doing. In fact, 1995, Dr. Morton Walker, who was a customer of mine, came out with an article in the Townsend Letter for Doctors warning doctors to avoid these. He said the abrupt jarring effect was the same as landing on the ground. You just did it a moment later. So I introduced a tapered spring design. It had a larger diameter in the middle and then a gradual taper on the end. And what that did, it allowed the body to decelerate and accelerate without ever coming to an abrupt stop or jar. So now we were able to create the pumping action. That's what made all the difference in the world. The problem then came up, whereas everybody in the industry started coming out with tapered spring designs, and they were producing them very cheaply. In fact, some of them were so cheap that you would stand on them and all you did was sink. They didn't have enough lift at all because the steel was too weak. So it's real frustrating for somebody to go out and invest money in a mini trampoline that doesn't give them results because they're not creating the G forces or have that pop where it lifts them back up. And so I went on to create what I call the Triplex spring design. And it's literally a spring. I don't know if you can see it. It has
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, it's got a ridge. That ridge, it has one diameter in the middle, and then it has the ridge where it focuses the weight toward the center. Now, if you jump higher or you weigh more, you graduate to the next ridge and the next tier and so forth. So you never come to an abrupt stop or jar. So the pumping action, the G forces, are being applied to the body, not by lifting weight away from gravity, which is limited, but by increasing the weight of gravity, which is not. And so over the course of, the 6 months, it had changed my entire physique. So I started traveling around, and then I started doing health shows and health fairs. And I was approached by a number of infomercial companies that wanted to do an infomercial on the program, because I was doing techniques that would blow the Abflex machines out of the water. And you've seen it. You know what I'm talking about.
I have seen some of those moves that you pull on the machine. It's pretty impressive.
And it's just, you just grow. I tell people, don't work out, play in. Make it easy, make it fun. You look at a baby or a child when they're jumping up and down on a crib or on the couch or the bed, they're having fun. We can have fun. The moving up and down we'll get into it, but it is so critical. It is so vitally important. When I was doing my business plan, people were asking me, David, who's your target audience? And I thought seriously about it. And I said, people. And they said, oh, no, you can't be that broad. You got to narrow your market. And I thought about it for a moment. And I said, no, I don't need to narrow my market. You need to broaden yours, because everybody needs it. Everybody does. It's not really optional. And people don't realize this. When you start to move up and down and the fluid, you backflush valve, you open up capillaries, you change your blood chemistry. We've seen this under microscopes. With most people, a lot of it has to do with the dead processed foods or the acidic diet that we have today. But the blood cells in the environment of the body becomes acidic. And you know about this too. And the blood cells, when it becomes acidic, the blood cells become sticky. They don't circulate very well. And so they have a tendency to create a kind of a plaque. We call it arthrosclerosis.
They call it like a rouleau, where you see this under a microscope, where they all stick together like glue.
Yeah.
We've done testing, and you can actually see it. You jump on a Cellerciser for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden all the cells separate because of the charge changes on the cell and separates this positive and negative charge. It's just phenomenal.
It's huge. When we go through a lot of the symptoms of the aging process, and they say that hardening of the arteries is the number one degenerative disease. So the blood vessels and the capillaries begin to shrink. Over time, they get harder, and as the capillaries shrink, we get less circulation to the extremities of the body. Most people live a horizontal existence all day long, walk around all day long. Rarely do they get enough moving up and down. And so those blood vessels, as they shrink and as our body functions get weaker, we think, oh, it's part of the aging process. And we buy into that. The movement up and down moves fluid up and down through the body, and it opens up the capillaries. It changes the blood chemistry, so now the cells can more freely circulate. As they circulate, you feel better because your body functions better. Who doesn't need that? Everybody needs it. So it's really not optional. We often think of balance as having something to do with age. I've never known a baby born with balance. It doesn't have balance. It doesn't, it's a physiological function. We get it by challenging it. We lose it by not challenging it. We become more and more tentative as we get older, thinking that we're losing our balance, when in reality, we've stopped challenging our balance. I had a lady that was in the office one day, and she calls me up. She'd been on the Cellerciser for 3.5 weeks. She calls me up and she says, David, and she's bragging. She said, David, you should have seen me yesterday. I was on top of my rooftop repairing my own shingles, and you should have seen the neighbors. Wade, she was 91 years of age. Balance can improve at any age, and I know. I mean, I don't know anything that challenges the balance mechanism better than Cellercise for several reasons. And you've seen me do the strength and balance test too. So I started Cellercising, and I started traveling around the country doing these trade shows. I turned down the infomercials because they wanted to compromise the integrity of the product. And I did not want to do that. I said, well, it's not going to work. Yeah, but we'll sell a lot more units. I'll make you a household name. One person says, I'll make you a household name. I said, I'm not interested in the name. I'm interested in helping people get results. And I've stayed by that all throughout my career. It's about helping people, because I've been there. I know what it's like when you don't feel like you're going to be around much longer. I've been able to help people with all kinds of conditions, Wade. And the Cellerciser is, you can go to the website, Cellercise.com, and you can see and read the customer reviews. Knee problems, hip problems, back problems, shoulder problems, digestion, elimination issues, weight loss, cellulite, headaches, people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis. Has been huge, incredible testimonials of people when they get on the Cellerciser. I'm not making claims. What I am saying is when your cells are stronger and healthier and working more efficiently, your body parts will be stronger, healthier, and working more efficiently too. You can read the customer reviews. You can read this, what Cellercise does, and a person can decide for themselves. But the objective is to help create stronger, healthier, more efficient body parts and functions. And we do that by creating stronger, healthier, more efficient cells. So I started traveling around, and in the process, I would teach people, somebody would come up to me and say, I have a hard time sleeping. And I said, well, why don't you try this? Because it was something that I personally did. And I shared it with them. I was at the National Health Federation one day and doing a presentation, and this lady, and I had all these people gathered around, and this lady parts away, comes running up to me, launches herself on me, and grabs me and just, thank you so much. And I didn't know 6 months before, she was one of the ones I shared the technique that I teach for helping people to sleep better. I didn't realize so many other people had that kind of a problem. But if you look at a baby, when a baby is fussy, under distress or not doing real well, you'll see a person take a baby, put them over their shoulder, and what do? They gently bounce the baby up and down. What does the baby do? They relax. Well, most of us are too big to be put over somebody's shoulder. But I can teach people how to get on the Cellercise and follow a 3-minute routine that reduces the stress and tension of the body, opens up circulatory channels so that they go immediately go to bed and they can sleep. And it's been phenomenal how many people that's helped us with, including me. Because as you know, running a company, you get to a certain point, you run a company, but the company gets to a certain point, it runs you. So
absolutely.
We got to take time out. And Cellercise, I think it's been a great lifesaver. But so I started teaching people these techniques, and doctors started telling me why it was working. So in the process over the last 25 years of working with individuals and finding out the results that they were achieving and explaining them to doctors and having doctors tell me why this was happening, I became a walking encyclopedia for Cellercise. Lower back example, back problems, that's huge. We're told up to 80% of Americans anyway are going to have lower back problems to contend with. And I was one of them. In fact, when I was in my early 30s, I was rolling out of bed sideways several times a month because I couldn't just sit straight up because of my back. But by developing certain movements on the Cellerciser, opening up the vertebrae and gently bouncing to increase circulation to the disc and then doing different twisting movements, is called imbibition. It's imbibing the disc with synovial fluid, something most people don't know how to do. But as we loosen up the muscles and increase circulation to the disc is like a sponge. When it doesn't get enough circulation, it can shrink like a sponge without water. And that puts more pressure on the nerves and less flexibility in the back. As we open up the vertebrae and increase circulation to the disc, it's called imbibition, or imbibing the disc with synovial fluid so the disc can literally expand again. We develop more flexibility in the back. Now, I've been 5'10" and a half my entire adult life. I saw my dad several years after I've been Cellercising, and he answered the door and he looked at me and he said, you look taller. I thought to myself, wait, you look shorter. But I didn't think anything of it. And then I had my wife measure me and the kids. She was measuring the kids. I said, what would you measure me to? I'm just curious. And so she's shorter and she's measuring up above my head and she says, 5'11" and a quarter or 5'11" and a half. I said, you're off an inch. Okay, 5'11" and a quarter. I dismissed it. I said, she probably just didn't measure me right. So I was at my attorney's in New York, and his name was Robert. And I said, Robert, do you have a moment to measure me? Because he was tall enough he could. And he did it in 5'11" and a quarter, 3/4 of an inch taller than I've ever been in my entire adult life. And I've since been measured by 3 doctors and 1 attorney. So I teach people. And I've come to find out other people have written me the same thing, that they also had their height increased. And some people who had lost an inch had regained an inch. That's interesting.
Funny you should say that, because, coming from a bodybuilding background, we had noticed sometimes if you go through heavy squatting, you'd come out to the car to drive home and you had to adjust the rear view mirror because you actually shrunk from compression.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things about what you're talking about here for the layman's term about you're pumping the fluid back in and then letting the spine to open up to its regular length, because we're all suffering from compression, if you will, over time of our, especially because we sit a lot and we tend to have a lifestyle that doesn't extend. And what you're saying is the Cellerciser, what you've developed in the programs, particularly some of the unique exercises that you demonstrate and show, allows people to experience an expansion inside their spine. And over time, people start can notice this also in their height. That doesn't mean that you're going to jump on the rebounder or the Cellerciser and you're going to be, a foot tall or anything, but you will be at your maximum height. But more importantly, I think it opens up the nerve channels which go into each one of those vertebrae. So
it does.
How
does flexibility in the back?
So my question is, and I think this is the question that everybody has, because and this was something that was really fascinating when I first met you and I got exposed to the Cellercise, and it just blew my mind, because I had a background in exercise physiology and training and, aerobic training and stretching training and resistance anaerobic training and lactic acid, like all these different mechanisms. Sure. And here are you bouncing up and down on stage, looking absolutely, what I would tell people, you have the healthiest looking muscle of anyone I've ever met. And, competing at the Mr. Universe and things like that. What particularly makes the Cellercise exercise, that this thing that you're doing, what makes it so much different than other forms of exercise?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's what makes it so exciting. In fact, part of my objective is to redefine exercise for the majority of people as Cellercise, where we take it from muscular to the cellular level. We have been taught for years to buy in to a methodology of exercise, which basically is a manipulation of the body. It's not natural, it's a manipulation. It works, but again, it's not natural. You'll never see a dog, a cat, a monkey, or any other species of animal out there pumping iron weights or doing some of the insane programs that you see on television. Nothing wrong with it, but it's not natural. When you tear down to build up, or the idea of no pain, no gain, or the idea you got to do 20 minutes of exercise to get a good aerobic exercise, as if the cells of our body have watches. They don't, but it's a great way to wear out and sell tennis shoes. The idea that you have to sweat in order to get good exercise. You don't have to sweat. You can. Sweating simply means your body's overheating and it's got to cool itself down. That's all. But and that's a good thing, because you don't want to overheat. But you can get all the exercise you need without sweating if the conditions are right. So the Cellercise is totally different from this perspective. When you tear down to build up, you're lifting weight away from gravity over and over. You reach a certain plateau and you increase the weight and maintain the repetition. The muscle gets bigger and stronger, but it also gets harder. When you tear to build, which isn't natural, but a manipulation, the body's very resilient to a degree. When you tear a cell tissue, the cell repairs the tear with more protein. It patches it. So they say do it every other day, because the body literally has to recover. It has to heal itself. And so it heals itself with a patch. And then you tear it again. So it has to patch again. And they tear it. And over a period of time, you've got these tears that start to deform the muscle. And that's what makes the muscle look big and bulky, strong. And it's more of a sport than anything else. And as a sport, you can do it. But even that, I say, get a Cellerciser and use it. Because they did a study at the National Aerobics Institute in Seattle, Washington, under the direction of Dr. Larry Getman. And in that study, they showed that if you incorporated the routine of Cellercise in between each weight training station, you could grow up to 26% faster.
Wow, that's an amazing statistic. So you're talking about actually you're working out in the gym, and then in between your sets, you go over and bounce on the rebounder, just like a health bounce or something like that.
Yeah, third jog or gently bounce. Remember the strength and balance test that we do? We give people that new certain,
yes.
Okay, well, a person just got off the Cellerciser, now they go lift again. They're going to be stronger. They're going to lift more anyway. But they're also getting rid of the lactic acid faster through the pumping up and down. Mm-hmm. They're opening up circulation. They're opening up energy fields that do literally flow through the body, where when you create a restriction in the body, you also restrict the energy flow. When you're jogging and hitting a hard surface over and over, the pounding effect creates a restriction in the energy flow. That actually is joggers, if you want to get jogging experience, get a Cellerciser in between your jogging sessions, because the impact that you get from jogging accumulatively is going to take far more out of you than it's ever going to give you in return. And it may be fun, but the vertebral joints, the abdominal rings, the breasts in women, the uterus, the back, that pounding over and over and over restricts circulation to those joints, and over time they wear down. So we want to go ahead and jog, but get on the Cellerciser. You are literally weightless over 100 times a minute. So you're up in the air, you're weightless. At that point, through the pumping and through the pressure changes in the lymphatic system, when you're weightless, you've got this little suction that occurs, and it starts to pull that circulation in between the tissue spaces of the body again. Very, very important for health. But with Cellercise, you don't tear down to build up. When you apply weight on the cell tissue, and you can do it basically two different ways, how high you jump or how you leverage the weight, the body angle, which is what I do. When you, for example, if you want to really work the abdominals, if you tilt backwards a little bit, all the muscles tense up. Now, as you jump up and down on a Cellerciser and you kick your legs out, you're going to leverage that weight right there in the stomach. It's far more intense than if you're just doing the sit-up. But the whole body is still involved. That's what makes it unique. Your whole body is still flexing with weight on it. So as you put weight over and over on the body, it has one of two options. It's either going to get shorter and shorter. It won't. It's going to have to get stronger and stronger to compensate with weight that's on it. Now, and you know me, I don't lift weights, so I don't have a lot of muscle mass. But you said something really interesting, and I want people to see this. I've had thousands of people feel my muscles, and you know what I'm talking about. If you look at the muscle on a dog or a cat, when they're relaxed, their muscle is very, very soft. You can almost push right into their bone. They're not hard at all. But when you take typical exercise that tears down to build up, and you feel the muscle, it's hard. You go to a massage therapist and they work with a bodybuilder. The massage therapist starts to really push on the muscles, and bodybuilder, you feel it. You feel those muscles.
Absolutely.
And I've had more than one massage therapist say they do not want to massage me, because I say, can you do it harder? I really can't feel that. And I can't. I mean, it's not hard enough. My muscle, when you feel it, it looks like blubber. It's like, where in the world, where's the muscle? It's the softest muscle, and we've had thousands of people feel it. It's really weird. I used to think something was wrong until Dr. John Gray, customer of mine for over probably 20 years now, he actually said, hey, that's one of the healthiest muscles I've seen. And which is what you said. When I flex the muscle, okay, now it's a hard, strong muscle. Well, that's the kind of muscle that a dog or cat has. So your ability to do athletic activities and to have a longer athletic life has a lot to do with the quality and health of the muscle tissue itself, as well as the ligaments and tendons. And so we found out, as I developed these different routines to work on different areas of the body, with the entire body still working, it took a lot less time. My whole routine's 10 minutes a day. I still do I did my 10-minute routine this morning. It's a 10-minute routine. And I tell people it's not the amount of time that matters. It's how you challenge the cells within the amount of time. You can do it a longer period of time. There's benefits to that, no question. You lose weight. But that's the other thing that I designed and developed. A phenomenal weight loss program. And you can only do it on a Cellerciser. And that, so yeah, you can build up muscle mass, you can tighten into it, and you can do a natural facelift. I show different movements that you can do that it just tightens, it keeps the body firm, not tight, but firm. Actually, Cellercise improves flexibility without ever having to stretch. And the reason for that is you're taking the cell itself, the cell membrane is becoming more flexible as you're moving up and down. At the same time, it's becoming stronger because of the increase of weight. It takes time for people to get their head around that because it's really different.
You mentioned a couple things about weight loss and stuff. For a lot of people don't know that in 2007, after I had met you and, I'd gone on my own health journey, I decided to do another world championships. And usually it's a 20-week preparation to get ready for that. And I use the Cellerciser in a unique way to, number one, accelerate my recovery from training. And number two, to accelerate my fat loss in a way that was typically defined in the industry that wasn't possible. And what that allowed me to do was to actually get in shape for a national championship in 3.5 weeks and then compete in the Worlds 3 months later, which after a 3.5-year retirement, it wasn't possible. And I even had some professionals in the industry who saw me before I started. And then when I stepped on stage, and they were astonished that was even possible. And in fact, one of them, who is a medical doctor and a naturopathic doctor, he said, Wade, what you've done is not possible. There was no chemicals, no drugs. But what they didn't know is I was Cellercising at that time 5 times a day. I did these little 10-minute sessions to accelerate it, and I put it to the test. So you're making some bold statements out there that I know there's skeptics out there going, come on, is this really for real? And I'm here to say that it is. Tell me some things, like when someone wants to do this and says, okay, what does this look like typically in a day to start getting the benefits? Is there a progressive component? I know you teach a lot of different, there's a 10-minute routine that is kind of your standby, but where do people start and where can they go? Because I know you got a lot of stuff coming out around that as well.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say, Wade, you, and I haven't said this enough, you're like part of our Cellercise family. At the office, everybody knows who you are. They all know about you. They all, respect you. You have been an inspiration to more people than you realize. You're on our DVD, and everybody, you end up in everybody's home every time.
That's hilarious.
Cellerciser. So you've been an inspiration to a lot of people, and we hear, you don't hear about it enough. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being
Thanks,
part
David.
of it. And you bet. But let's talk about weight loss for a moment, because again, we learned all the ways not to do it, fighting against that which is wrong, instead of promoting that which is right. We go on diets, we go on drugs, we go on shots and pills. We want the quick fix. That's the way our society has taught us to do it. And people that the biggest loser, they've had some real problems. So because people,
the people after they lose the weight really set themselves up. The history is nasty.
Yep, and their metabolism is shot. It's shot, and so their body has been starved for so long. It's gone through so much that it retains as much as it can, and they often gain a lot more weight than they lost to begin with. It's been pretty sad to hear about some of the stories. But again, you're fighting against that which is wrong. So let's talk about a different methodology. Now we have.
We'll call it the biggest winner.
Yeah, the biggest winner. There you go. There you go. We can do that. And we're always looking for people that we have a chance to work with on this and who want to help us spread the message. So there's a lot of opportunity there, because I'm just one person, and Wade, you're one person, and collectively we're more than two. But we're we need people that hear this and test it, and if they, as they get the results, to share it with others, because that's what keeps us going, especially in a very hostile, to some degree, environment. It's really kind of interesting, but we've survived and endured because of the family spirit of the people who support the Cellerciser, and they literally have been family in more ways than they'll ever know, until I get my book finished. And we'll talk more about it. But let's talk about weight loss.
And now for a biOptimizers fixed digestion tip: supercharge your protein shake. Everyone knows protein shakes are a great way to sneak in extra protein, build more muscle, even replace meals and burn more fat. The problem is the highest quality protein typically absorbs at around 40%. One way to fix this and dramatically increase how quickly and effective your protein shake digests is to add 2 to 3 capsules of Masszymes into your shake. One research study showed that pre-digested protein during a meal increased muscle growth significantly. To take advantage of this, just blend the open capsules into your shake, and within 15 minutes or less, the enzymes will have begun to break down the protein into amino acids. This can make your shakes at least 2 to 3 times more potent. Some people do this and sip on their shake while lifting to provide their muscles with a steady stream of amino acids during their workout. To save 10% on Masszymes, use the code SHAKE10, that's SHAKE10, at Masszymes.com. That's SHAKE10 at Masszymes.com.
There's 3 natural ways to lose weight. Diet is definitely one of them. Burning calories faster than we're taking them in, that's another one. But the third one, which you experienced partly by doing 5 sessions of Cellercise, is the increase in metabolic processes. When you get on a Cellerciser and you do, for example, the Jamba Run, that's a technique that I created. The biggest muscles of the body have the greatest demand for fuel. They give us the fastest results. So most exercises are going to concentrate on the thighs and the buttocks because they're the biggest muscles. Well, on the Cellerciser, I teach a technique where you spread the feet apart a little bit. You bend at the knee slightly, keeping your back straight. You don't want to lean forward. But when you spread your feet apart, and I can kind of illustrate that a little bit here, maybe not. I don't have enough room to back up, but you just bend at the knee, and you hold on to the balance bar on the Cellerciser. It has a bar you can hold on to, so you can do the different movements without worrying about your balance, which means you put more effort into your routine, you get faster results. So hold on to the bar, and what you do is you run as fast as you can without lifting your feet up off the mat. You're pushing down into the mat. And so it looks like the football players, when they get on the ground, they kind of lean forward a little bit, and they run really, really fast on the ground. The difference is that they're cheating. They really are, because they lean forward. And when they lean forward, they take the weight off their thighs and put it on their back. But you can't do the Jamba Run on the ground. You'd hurt your back, because it's running flat-footed on the ground with your back.
You're going to be jarring the spine, of course.
You would destroy it. But on a Cellerciser, you can, because you eliminate up to 7/8 of the jar. There's less jarring on that than there is walking on the ground. And so you get on the Cellerciser, you keep your back straight, your feet flat, bend at the knee, you run as fast as you can, pushing down into the mat, and you won't last, I don't care what kind of shape you're in, you won't last 20 seconds.
It's killer.
Burn.
I've done that, and it's a different feeling, I routinely, squat over 300 pounds, regularly full squats, but it does not hit the body the same way as doing the Jamba Run. It's really weird. The first time you get on it and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is no problem, and you start doing it, you're like, holy doodle, what's going on here? So tell me, what's happening inside the body that makes that metabolic transformation?
Okay, the body needs fuel. When you do repetitions of the Jamba Run, you're going to eat up the glucose and the sugars very quickly in the bloodstream, because that's the most readily available energy source in the body. So it's going to eat that up. Now, as you continue to do repetitions of it, so you'll do your first set. Now I do it for about a minute now. I tried 2 minutes, and that was just all mind. It was ridiculous. So I went back to a minute, and it's tough. You will feel it. I don't care what shape.
It's tough.
And it's so intense. We had some doctors actually tell us that's so intense it'll grow new capillaries. That's interesting, because we have women, not women, but women, who have written me wonderful reviews on how they got rid of their cellulite.
Which is metabolically inactive tissue because it's not receiving blood flow, correct?
Yep. And it doesn't receive blood flow, your capillaries aren't getting to it. So when you do the intensity of the Cellerciser, it's so intense. The doctor said that it would grow new capillaries. Boy, that's so intense, it'll grow new capillaries. And you'd all recognize his name if I mention him. But it gets to the cellulite, and so that it has access to it, increased circulation, now it can burn it as fuel. So the first few times or a couple times you do it, you're going to be eating up the most readily available fuel source. Now, as you keep doing it, that readily available fuel source is gone. But you have this incredible demand for fuel, because these muscles are really working. they have to go for other fuel resources. That's the white adipose tissue, the fat that we accumulate within the body, which is fuel just lying dormant. Now, all of a sudden, the body has no more fuel. It has to go after the white adipose tissue. Well, in the process of doing this and the intensity, every time you do it, your metabolism, it goes up. It doesn't just drop down like eating sugar. It doesn't just crash. It goes up and it slowly comes down. When I started teaching the Jamba Run, I was traveling all around the country, and I would I'd do a show, or one of these health fairs. I'd be there 2.5 days, right? And I would ask people as they're walking by, "Are you familiar with the Jamba Run?" Of course, nobody is. I invented it, but I'd say, "Okay, well, let me."
You're doing like 100 Jamba Runs a day.
You're not kidding. I'd get on there, and I'd only be on there 10, 15 seconds, but every time I did it, guess what my metabolism did? It would shoot up. And so several times during the hour, my metabolism was so high. It was so high when I was teaching and doing this. I could lose 8 to 10 pounds in 1 weekend.
Yeah, and this is all body fat, so you like
and I did
no special diet.
No special diet at all. In fact, doing it, I dropped down. This is a true story. My doctor, you can call him and ask him about it. I dropped down to 3% body fat. Now that's which is you're into the danger zone at that point, right? Yes, you are. I wasn't tired at night. I wasn't tired. I was eating 2 meals at nighttime, trying to put the weight back on. Couldn't put it on. And after you go month after month and you're just not tired and you're eating all this food, and thank goodness the Cellerciser is keeping it going. But I finally went to the doctor and I said, something's wrong. I can't gain any weight. And they did a full physical on me, and Dr. Armstrong, and he said, well, David, you're in perfect shape. You're in great shape. And I'm grateful to say I still am. That's a good thing. But he said, you've got the metabolism of a 19-year-old. And I said, well, I didn't used to do this. Isn't normal. And he said, it's just your body type. And I didn't believe that. So I stopped doing the Jamba Run. I couldn't demonstrate it. I just stopped doing as many shows. I wanted to get my weight back up. It took a month for me to get my rear end back. My wife can testify. She saw the whole thing. It blew her away. So now I don't do the Jamba Run as much. I'll do it occasionally when I feel like I need to get my metabolism a little higher again. And there's times where I need to do that, I think, because I sit behind a desk all day long and I do my 10-minute day routine. But I get up there, I do the Jamba Run, and if I do that, even before I go to bed at night, if I want to lose weight, do the Jamba Run. You can still go to sleep, do the gentle baby bounce, health bounce or baby bounce, and then go to sleep. You've increased your metabolism. Now, when we eat, if we want to lose weight quickly, one of the things we should do is stop eating a big meal just before we go to bed, because your body has one of two options. When you feed it fuel, it's either going to burn it or it's going to store it. Well, if we eat it at night, it's going to store it because we don't have a need to burn it. If we eat during the morning, we fill up the gas tank with fuel, we're going to burn it during the day. So if you're going to eat at night anyway, increase your metabolism. You'll still be able to sleep when you do the gentle baby bounce. But your metabolic processes are going to be higher because you put a demand on the body and it's going to start to burn that fuel. And so I did that. I taught that to my daughter. She was, when she was in junior high, peer pressure is a little greater, and she was more concerned about her weight. And so she remembered what Daddy taught. And so she got on the Cellerciser every night. And for about 20 minutes, she would do repetitions of the Jamba Run. Just like when they got rid of their Cellular, they were doing 20 minutes a night too. And so she'd heard me teach that. She got up there and she was just really doing this. She dropped 10 pounds in 1 month, and her metabolism got so high. I said, you need to back off. You need to slow down, because I know what I went through. You don't want to become like Twiggy, which she started to do. And
right.
Oh, that dates me. Sorry, guys.
It's all right.
Okay, so But anyway, she got really, really thin. And so we had a lady call us up, and she wanted to lose weight, desperate to lose weight. And she was a couch potato. She liked to watch TV. And so we said, okay, well, from now on, instead of being a couch potato, I want you to think Cellercise potato. You're going to take all the furniture that you would normally sit in out. If you're really serious, take it out of the living room and just put the Cellerciser there. If you want to sit on it, go ahead. But you want to get on the Cellerciser. And most people don't sit on it. And so I said, you watch a TV show and you just start to bounce gently. And then let's do the different movements to strengthen the knees and then the hips. And so, like you mentioned, there's a graduated program that we teach people how to begin the first, second, third, and fourth week, while they start to build and strengthen their body. Because when you get on a Cellerciser and you move up and down, so do all the internal organs, and including the brain. And with most people who've been living a horizontal existence for years, gravity pulls down. They haven't been bouncing up and down, so the connective tissues get weak. Everything starts to fall. We think, again, it's part of the aging process. No, it's not part. It's weaknesses in the body for the most part. It's one of the reasons boxers do a lot of jump roping, is so they strengthen the connective tissue surrounding the brain, so when they get hit in the head, the brain doesn't crash against the skull, causing a knockout. Well, a lady wrote me a beautiful testimonial. She said, David, as I was hitting midlife, I felt like everything was headed south. Now that I've been Cellercising, I feel like everything's headed north again. And there's reasons for that. So she gets on it, she starts to do this. We didn't hear back from her for probably 2.5 years. And then we get a phone call. And it's kind of cute. She says, she calls up and she's talking to Jerry, my vice president, and she says, I wanted to call and tell you that I lost my sister. And Jerry was, oh, I'm sorry. He had no idea where this was going. And she says, I'm not. He says, what do you mean? He says, I've lost 193.5 pounds since incorporating Cellercise into my diet.
Wow.
And the neat thing about Cellercise versus these quick weight loss programs, which you can still lose pretty quickly quite quickly. We had Dennis lost 98 pounds in 6 months. Mike lost 95 pounds in 6 months. Mel lost 68 pounds in 6 months. So there's all these people. I mean, you can lose the weight. But the advantage to Cellercise is as you're losing the weight, you're putting weight on the skin and all the collagen. So it's also firming up as you're losing the weight. When you lose weight too fast and you don't do anything with the skin, it just hangs. It just hangs on the body. But when you're Cellercising and losing the weight, you help mitigate that. The skin cells themselves can be tightening as we're losing the weight. And
you bring up an amazing point here that I want to talk about. And people ask me, well, Wade, you do all these trainings. Why do you do Cellercise? And I say, well, how else can you do a push-up for your pancreas? And with Cellercising, when you're doing a Cellercising exercise, you're actually, and you talk about acceleration, deceleration, and gravity as the forces that are working on the body, which Einstein said are you can't tell the difference between it on a cellular level. The same force that has this, and the cell responds to training. The Cellerciser is able to increase, but by the evidence suggesting it increases what's called mitochondrial density, which is the little energy furnace inside our body. But what's unique is if I exercise with regular sets and reps and muscles and exercises and these movements, I'm working those particular muscles. But when you're Cellercising, you're working those little energy furnaces inside your essential organs, inside your brain, inside your eyes, inside your teeth, like all of this. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about the mitochondria and how this activates that and what makes it deep, particularly from an internal? We talked about the externals, the fat loss. What's going on internally inside your muscles and organs and parts like that?
Well, there's so much. When you are challenging the cell needs fuel. And when it doesn't have the ability to have enough fuel or enough energy, it literally creates more through the mitochondria. And so as you have, instead of a few muscle groups, you have 75 trillion cells flexing over 100 times a minute. and working, and they don't know the difference. They don't care where weight comes from. You can limit the effect or you can increase it on every cell. The cells have to respond. They have to adapt to the challenge. Cellercise is just more efficient because it's challenging more cells. And as those cells are challenged, they have to adapt. So they're going to create more mitochondria because they're going to need more fuel. That's why, when I started Cellercising, I remember an event where we went ice climbing with, I'd never done that before, with a couple people in California, somewhere in California. And I remember as we were getting up the mountain that the snow was about waist level. I mean, we had to really pick our knees up high to get through the snow. And, it was a higher elevation. And the two people that were with me, one of them was an avid mountain climber and, rock climber. I mean, he did it all the time. And they were going too slow. So I asked them, where are we headed? And they pointed up the direction. And so for fun, I just picked my knees up and I just trekked right through the snow. I just kept going. I got up to the top. I waited around for quite a while and I got bored, so I went back down. I met him on the trail and went up again. I mean, the energy level is incredible. I'm not the only person who's done it. I had William, good friend of mine in Philadelphia. He talks about the same thing. This is what makes Cellercise so exciting, is that his friends were avid bike racers, cyclists, and he wasn't. He didn't, but he wanted to go with them one day. And so they were all on their bikes. And every time they came to a hill, William would fall way behind because they know how to switch the gears and move up, and they just kept cranking and they kept going. But every time he got to the top of the hill and he got on the other side, he would always catch right back up to him. And they're like, where'd you come from? And then they get to another hill and they'd take off. He'd get up to the top and he'd always catch right back up to him again. And they asked him about it afterwards. He said, we've never seen anybody do that. He said, and you don't cycle? He said, no. And they asked him, well, what do you do? He said, all I do is Cellercise. That's what did it. And it does. It improves a person's performance in any athletic activity, whether it's golf, because in golf you get what's called backers, golfer's back, I guess, where one group of muscles are favored over the other all the time. You get on a Cellerciser, and I teach a routine that involves the gentle twist, which helps to loosen up the back as you're bouncing it down and twisting, and it balances the back muscles out again, which helps.
Yeah, I love that. I love that move.
Oh, it's the second most important activity. You talked about the pancreas. Let's talk about that for just a second, because another one that we're told up to 80% of Americans are going to have problems with are digestion and elimination issues. And digestion elimination is critical for good health. So again, I tell people who need Cellercise, everybody. Again, why? Well, because most people eat every day. And when you eat and the food goes into the colon, the intestines, it sits there and it goes through its digestive, process.
Whole digestive process, the enzymes, the probiotics, the transport, the acidity, all that, and the alkalinity. Right. That's a whole process. We talk about it at our site, so most guys will be familiar with that. So, but talk about the movement. I know where you're going on this, so keep going.
Okay. Well, we build up with all the preservatives, additives, chemicals, and things that we're exposed to in our food and diet today. We irritate the inner lining. It can create inflammation within the actual intestines themselves. And that the body tries to protect itself. It creates a mucous membrane lining, but that restricts the ability of the body to absorb nutrients efficiently. Right. And so what ends up happening is we don't have real good digestion elimination processes. So the way I explain it, and you've heard me share this before, Wade, is that if you take a washing machine, you take a bunch of dirty clothes and you throw them into the washing machine and you turn on the water, but you forgot to put in the soap. And you forgot to turn on, the agitator didn't turn on. So you got dirty clothes, you turn on the water, you throw in the soap, but you forget the agitator. Now you got certain parts that are clean, certain parts that aren't. So now you throw in the dirty clothes, you throw in the soap, turn on the water, and now you turn on the agitator. Now you're going to clean the clothes. Well, most people today don't turn on the agitator at all. They just eat the food and they drink the water, which most people drink at the time they take, they eat the meal, which is, that's another issue because it dilutes the digestive enzymes that are needed to help digest the food. But they take the food, and I tell people I eat every day. So every day I put my colon, my intestines through a little washing machine. We get on the Cellerciser, we do a gentle twisting motion, and it takes the intestines and the colon and it gently massages them. If you take a digestive aid, it's like throwing the soap in, but without turning on the agitator. So if you take a digestive aid, take it, wait 20 minutes, get on the Cellerciser, and do a twist. So it's cleaning out. It helps to clean out the mucous membrane lining that accumulates. It helps the body to absorb nutrients more efficiently. It can help to improve the overall digestion elimination processes. And we've had countless reviews on that as well, including me. So it made a huge difference. But
including improving peristaltic contraction, because there's a contraction because those cells now are more toned and more ability to contract and work properly. So it's the physiological components that you can train and strengthen, which you can't do with other exercises.
That's very good. Thank you. And that's true. Another reason that I teach that routine as the second most important physical activity we can do is it loosens the lower back. We do things like this for the upper back, but when you're on a Cellerciser and you're gently moving them down and twisting, you're loosening the lower back as well as the upper back. And then the other big reason that's so important and why most people, when they begin Cellercising, begin to feel like a different person within 2 to 3 weeks is because the internal organs are functioning better. When you get on a Cellerciser and you gently bounce up and down and gently twist, you're taking the colon as well as the liver, the kidney, the spleen, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the adrenals, and you're massaging all those internal organs every day. It's a dynamic the average person never gets. And so that constant movement, that constant activity, which is part of my 10-minute a day routine, literally creates homeostasis or balance within the entire body, both physically and chemically. So the body parts and functions work more efficient. And we demonstrate it, and then we let people experience it. And that's the neat thing about Cellercise. We tell people, because I've been there, 30-day money back. You will feel results immediately. But within 30 days, if you don't want it, you don't think it's for you, return it. People don't return them. It becomes a lifestyle. We do it every day. I wouldn't want to wake up any other way. I wake up in the morning and I start to Cellercise. I'll notice any puffiness around the eyes disappear in 3 to 5 minutes. Because the movement up and down activates the lymphatic system and it helps pull that circulation or that puffiness out of the face, as well as all the other extremities of the body. It's the wake-up call to the body. So people ask me, they say, well, tell me about your Cellercise day. How do you do it? Well, first I drink water. I think it's important. And then I get on the Cellerciser. I do it right here in this office. Here is what I do in the morning. I get on my Cellerciser. And I do a gentle baby bounce or health bounce, the wake-up call. And then I will do my aerobic activity. And you can run slow or fast. If you have a hard time, you're just starting off, you spread the feet apart a little bit, you rock. You push down left, right, so the hips are gently dropping into the mat while we build up the thighs and the knees, which is real important because the skeletal system cannot support itself. It is dependent upon the ligaments and the tendons. And so we teach different routines or movements that are designed to help strengthen and restructure the supporting muscles and ligaments around the joints. Now, most people, if they have knee problems, hip problems, back problems, and shoulder problems, it's because of weaknesses or injuries within the supporting muscles and ligaments. I've been there. I've had it all. In fact, 2 years ago, I was doing a crazy routine with my daughter. I thought it was a yoga movement. It wasn't. And thinking that I was her age, and she was probably 12 at the time, probably about 12. And I sat back on my feet and all the way, going back to the ground and then going to, sit straight back up again. Well, as I'm going back to the ground, I hear these 2 pops on my knees. And I'm like, uh-oh. And come to find out that I just ripped the meniscus really badly, more than one place. And on my right leg, I could bear it. It wasn't bothering me a whole lot, but on my left leg, I could bend this leg and you could literally see the knee joint that popped out. It was just a couple of years ago. It would pop out. And so I went to a doctor who's one of my customers as well. And I said, can you fix this? I was hoping he'd pop it back into place. And he said, I think that's a tear. I think that's a pretty serious tear. And so I went and I ended up getting an MRI. And they read it and they said, oh, you got a lateral and bilateral tear in the meniscus and all this stuff. And they said, well, you have to have surgery. And he said, oh, and look at this. And he said, you've got lesions in these other areas. I said, what do you mean lesions? Well, there are areas that you've torn in the past that have healed. I said, oh, they healed? Yeah. Okay. So I talked to my doctor. He said, no, you're going to have surgery. I didn't have surgery. I didn't want to have the surgery. I have been a proponent that I believe that the body and the cells of the body, as I mentioned earlier, are imbued with an intelligence. They, better than any doctor or health practitioner, they know how to create, maintain, and heal the body. So I started taking some sharp cartilage and some good nutrients, and I started doing what I've been teaching everybody else to do to help build and restructure the knee. And we've had phenomenal results. And so I get a chance to go through it myself. And so I'm doing this, and 1 year later, it took time. 1 year later, I'm on a television program. And I'm talking about the benefits of Cellercise. I'm feeling pretty good. And I hadn't tried this in over a year. And so I stuck my leg out, and you see me do it, Wade. I still do it. It's fun. Stuck my leg out, sat down to the ground, stood up again, and while I was live on television. And I realized at that time I'm jumping for joy inside. Oh, it worked. It felt great. It didn't bother me at all. I have no problem with that knee whatsoever. It's healed. I went skiing. I've done, I was telling you about rollerblading. I can't believe it earlier. Doing all these different activities, no problem at all. I took a gentleman, his name was Robert, and he, and you've heard me talk about him. He was a semi-professional athlete in the 70s. And when I met him, he had torn up his knees and his back, and he was not in the best condition. And so I asked him, what did he, he's a little depressed too, because he couldn't compete anymore. I asked him what he had done to restructure and strengthen the supporting muscle and ligaments around the joints. And he looked at me like, what? I said, well, rather than deal with the symptom of the problem, let's deal with the cause of the problem. It's generally a weakness or an injury in the supporting muscles and ligaments. So let's target those. And I shared with him some of the different techniques that I've developed. And he took it to heart. He started to do it. 3.5 months later, he goes out for the Senior Games pentathlon. He wins first place in all of North America, considered the best on the continent. In his 60s, and you'll understand this, he leg pressed 880 pounds. He sends me copies of his article, which I demonstrate in my lectures now, with the letter. He said, David, it has been miraculous, the positive influence that your trampoline has had on my body. I've tried every strength, Pilates, stretching routine available. Nothing like your tramp. You should say Cellerciser. Nothing like your tramp has helped me to get my muscle and joint health back. He says, Helen, his wife, Helen and I are sold on what you created. So we've helped people with all kinds of conditions. And that's part of my journey, as I was going out there and teaching people the different techniques that I developed that they were telling me why it worked. So I've developed a routine. I don't know if I've shared this with you, Wade, that literally targets the bronchial tubes in the lungs. Have you seen me do that one? It opens up.
Go ahead to share it with us. Yeah, tell us about it.
Okay, well, I have to demonstrate it because it's on the Cellerciser. So I'm going to turn this around. I'm on the Cellerciser, and this is a real important technique because most people are shallow breathers. They will only get enough oxygen the first 2/3 of the lung. They don't really open up the other 1/3 of the lung enough. And so I developed this technique. Kind of funny story. I had a car that was being painted, and I went down to the shop that they were doing, they were sanding it this particular day, and I was looking for the owner. And I walk in, and they all have these masks on, but I didn't. But I wasn't going to be in there very long, right? So I go in, and I'm talking to them a little bit about what to look for and what to do on the car and how long it's going to take, and then I walked out. Well, I went home, and I could feel that I breathed enough into my lungs that it was really bothering them, and I didn't like the feeling. So now I want you to hear my voice, because even if I try to project, you can hear it. It's okay, but that's just what my voice is. what I was about to discover was something that, again, virtually everybody needs, because most people aren't going out and doing a lot of long distance running or swimming where they're really exercising the bronchial tubes in the lungs. And so they end up getting this accumulation of garbage and they start to narrow themselves. So this was literally an exercise for the lungs. And so it's done by standing on the Cellerciser. The feet are spread apart a little bit. I bend at the knees slightly. I put my hands in front of my face. Now this is excellent for men and women too, because it's going to really pump the lymph system all throughout the chest cavity area as well, because of the pressure changes in the pumping action that occurs. I'm trying to clear my voice so you can hear my voice. It doesn't matter. My voice is what it is. But now I'm going to jump up and down. I'm going to move up, breathe in through my mouth, and come down, breathe out through my mouth. It's a literal exercise. So it's not done through the nose. It's done through the mouth. We're exercising the lungs and pumping them. It goes like this. And when I'm done, can you hear the difference in the voice?
Yeah, the resonance completely changes.
Yeah, it opens up the voice. So I've been teaching radio announcers. I've been teaching singers and performers how to do it. Now, when you first start to do it, though, you don't do it very long. You might only do it about 6 seconds, because if you do it too long, you can get dizzy. And you're pumping all this oxygen into the bloodstream, which is really healthy. It also increases metabolism. It's a good one that I teach for people to do when they're if they want to lose weight and doing aerobic activities, to prime the body first with that extra oxygen, which it does do. But if you do too much when you first begin, the bronchial tubes in the lungs can feel a little sensitive. And so I tell people, do maybe 6 seconds and then wait the next day and see how you feel. Because with me, I was so sensitive after I'd first done it, I didn't do it 6 seconds. I was really pumping it, trying to get, the paint particulates out of my lungs. The next morning, they felt like they were on fire, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that again. But a couple of days later, I did it again, and I was clearing stuff out, and it was like, wow, this feels pretty good. And I kept doing it. When I first began it, even me, who had been Cellercising for years, it sounded wheezy. It really sounded wheezy. But after probably about 2 to 3 weeks, they sounded totally different. They were open and much clearer than they had been when I began. So it was another technique that, honestly, in this whole journey, Wade, I can't take credit for this. I give it credit to the person behind me or to God. I really do, because I honestly, truly believe I've been guided and directed, and I've had to go through various different things as part of my journey. And in that journey, it's been able, I've been able to help other people. When I began Cellercising, I honestly didn't know that I'd be around much longer. All I wanted to do was see my kids grow up. When my kids grew up, they got married. Now I've got more kids. I'm waiting for them to grow up. And so to me, my time isn't mine. I've been blessed with the life that I've had, and the opportunity to work with over 80,000 people now and help them develop their health and vitality and energy and quality of life. Because I've said, and you've heard me say it, when we have our health, we can pursue our wealth and we can enjoy it. But when we lose our health, we'll expense our wealth trying to get our health back again, which makes health our wealth. It really is. And if I can help people achieve that, their greater health potential, and we all have one, we have a greater health potential, then that's what I'm here to do.
Pretty amazing. We could talk all day. I know I want to respect your time. So a couple things before we go. You're working on, you got a brand new trainer thing coming out. You've got a new book coming out soon and all this stuff. Can you share with our listeners today and our viewers what's coming down the pipe, and also how do they follow you? How do they get access to you? How can they get a Cellerciser? We'll put all this in the show notes, but I'd like for you to share in your own words in the next, say, 5 minutes or so, Where is this all going and what's going? Because I know you're working on some amazing things that I'm so excited about, and I can't wait to tell everybody about it so they can get access to all of the things that you've developed and discovered over the last 25 years with all these people. There's just not enough time in an interview, but people need to experience this. How do they do that? How do they experience more, David?
Well, the website is one way. Now we're redoing our website too, because it's not representative of what it needs to be, but it still has a lot of good information. It's got a lot of YouTube videos and things that I've done over the years, and people can go and watch it. And then it's got exercises, and I show the different routines that you can do for weight loss, for knee problems, hip problems, back problems, stomach tightening and toning, the breathing one. It's all in the website. You can actually see the graphic, do the movement. And yes, you're right. I'm working on a book. We just got back from San Francisco, and I'm headed back again in a couple weeks to work on it more. It's taking more time because there is so much exciting research that has been done that when you apply it to what the Cellerciser can do for your overall health and incredible strength is it's amazing. It's going to change, I think, to some degree, the whole fitness industry, especially those who are involved with athletics and sports, because we've primarily looked at it from a muscular perspective. And as I was sharing with you earlier, there's more, and there are more potential strength parts within the body that typical exercise can't reach, but the Cellerciser can. And that's, again, one of the reasons people are so much stronger and more balanced after they've been on a Cellerciser. And then you alluded to the virtual trainer. It should be coming out next month. We've been working on it for 3 years. And if I can tell you just a little bit about the story, it's
please do. Please hit it with us.
Well, people for years have been saying, David, we want to see your 10-minute routine, or we want you to do a 20 or 30-minute program that we can follow along on the DVD. And I've never done that. I've not wanted to do that. And the reason being is that what I do is I teach the different movements. So you can get our Cellercise right now comes with a $40 DVD that we're throwing in that has a personal trainer drop-down menu. And in that drop-down menu, I go through weight loss, I go through muscle building, I go through the breathing one, I go through digestion, elimination, knee problems, hip problems, back problems, shoulder issues. There's over 20 different techniques, the natural facelift, and all these various different things. So that's all in the DVD. And then what I didn't want to do is have somebody follow along, because not everybody's in the same position. They don't weigh the same amount. They may not be as fast. They may not be able to do all the different movements safely. And the last thing I want to do is have somebody get hurt. And so we share with them, well, here are some movements. Here's how to do the movements. The first, second, third, and fourth week, you take those movements and you apply them to yourself. And then we give some suggestions. But what I called my attorney up one day, and it was kind of an epiphany. I was sleeping at night and struggling with this because somebody else had asked me again, well, can you do a video that we can follow along? And I woke up one morning and I called my attorney and I said, what do you think of this idea? And I said, visualize a canvas. And on the canvas, you've got a really nice background. You can pick any kind of background you want. We've got all kinds of backgrounds. You want to be in the desert, in the mountains, and by a spring, by the beach, urban area, just pick your background. And then over here on this library on the left side of the canvas, if you will, your screen's like your canvas, you've got a male or a female graphic. You'll pick the graphic, you drag it over, it'll be a male or female. You'll have warm-up exercises, you'll have different movements. You can put the amount of time you want to do the different movements. You'll be able to go to the library, pick the music that you want. You'll be able to literally create your own routine. And it's customized to your needs, not to what somebody else is telling you to do. So it's not one shoe fits all feet. It's whatever you need. And then you work with a personal trainer. In addition to that, so you'll create your own exercise routine. And you can speed up the movement or slow down the movement. We patented it. It's a patented idea. So so we can protect it, and we can protect the integrity of how it's being represented and how it's being used. And then we took and we created about 32 different movements as well. So for beginning, intermediate, seniors, advanced people, they can do the different programs, or they customize their own, or they take one of the ones that we've done and say, hey, I want to add this, or I want to take this out. So they're literally going to be able to create an entire library of their own exercise programs, and then they can work with me, they can work with our office, they can work with you, Wade. They can literally, we'll find ways that we can create the programs with their trainers or their therapists, so that it's a program specific for them and for what they want to accomplish. And that's
truly exciting. Really, really exciting. And that's no small feat. So I appreciate the commitment that you're doing. Of course, I think we'll put it in the show notes how to get access to you, so we can just click on here and find that sort of information. So,
and when they go, if they decide they want to get a Cellerciser, use the discount code, and we'll have it ready by then. The discount code WADE, WADE, and
perfect.
That will give them a little bit of a discount, Wade, and it'll also identify you as being part of our family.
So it's David Hall, often imitated, never duplicated. He is the original. He has a technology. It's not a trampoline. It is a Cellerciser. It's different, and it can change your life. I recommend it to everybody I know and everybody that I meet. If they really want to transform their life health-wise, there's no better person. And I'm so excited about the new book and the new trainer that you're bringing out. We're happy to share that and keep that message going. Thank you so much for your commitment to so many people. You make such a big difference in the world, David. And it's just always an honor and a pleasure to connect with you. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Wade, thank you. It's an honor to be with you, and to be able to support you and the integrity that you represent, the number of people that you are out there to help. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving me a chance to be a part of it. And thanks for being part of the Cellercise family too.
My pleasure. David Hall. And check with the show notes. We'll get all that information to you. And we'll probably have him back on the show once all this stuff is ready, so you can maybe see a demonstration of what's going on. So thanks so much, David.
Thank you. Thanks, Wade. You take care.
At biOptimizers, our mission is to fix digestion. And a cornerstone of digestion is gut flora. P3OM is our patented probiotic formula. In fact, we call it the Navy SEALs of probiotics. You see, strong proteolytic or protein digesting activity is paramount to having a healthy gut flora. And of course, P3OM provides that. The good news is, unlike weaker probiotics, P3OM survives the digestion process. What it does is it basically multiplies the good guys while protecting you against pathogens, or what some people call the bad guys. P3OM really helps to rebuild your digestion. And what that allows you to do is to maximize nutrient uptake, energy, and metabolism. To find out more of how P3OM can help you, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the biOptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.